Hi, my name is Emily Iannelli of T-Girl Angel, and I was watching a few videos on YouTube um, that are based on similar people with transgender backgrounds like myself who are going through their own struggles. And I find, for me personally, in dealing with my own issues, my own transgender struggles, that I've come to rely on self expression. And I think one of the things that really saved me from actually committing suicide was my ability to take the pain that I feel and put it into writing and creating. Um, and I'm very fortunate with a chain of things that occurred in my life. There were sad things too that also played a role, which, if I could go back and undo them, I certainly would. But we can't change that. I can't change that, no matter how much I wish I could. I can't undo my father's suicide. But I had to grow from that horrible, painful experience. And the only way I could cope with that and deal with that was to start to first grieve and go through the stages of grieving, and then find an avenue of trying to cope and deal with that unfortunate occurrence. And that's when I started getting into writing. And I did never would have imagined that my writing would bring me to a point in my life that would give me confidence to take risks. I only started writing for the purpose of healing and coping. And I also am raising a son who's on the autistic spectrum. So I incorporated my writings to deal with two issues at hand: my father's tragic suicide and my son's autistic background, and what we as parents, my wife and I, have gone through in trying to get him uh, a proper education and proper resources to help him to grow and thrive, hopefully. We're very lucky that he has been in a school program that has been a very tremendous and influential uh, part of his education now. And I truly believe in my heart that we made the right choice. Though he is a 6 hour drive away, we are feeling that he is making progress. And that's basically all that we could expect. Um, I also am writing a lot now about my own transgender struggles. Um, and I am very into expression, self expression. I like to write, and I don't write only about autism, suicide, and transgender related issues. I like to write stories, I like to write poems, I like to write songs. Whatever I like that comes to mind and I'm inspired, I like to create. And my form of creation is through words and composition. And I feel that it's very important to be able to tap into my emotions and get all those feelings out and express them. It's very important because I'm dealing with a lot emotionally, and one thing is that being transgender is very difficult. We live in a very judgmental society, unfortunately, and we have lots of restrictions as to our rights as people. Personally, I don't know why any community of people should be treated unfairly. I don't think it's right, and I just don't feel that there's any purpose for it. I think we're all people, and we all should have the same rights, and we all should be accepted for who we are. I am only living the life that I feel I should. I am happy that I'm married and I have a son. I'm thrilled. And I tried my best to live a life being the male role that I thought I should be based on my birth. But things did not work out that way. I tried and I really put in my best effort to do what was required of me. But as a result of some internal turmoil and struggles, and knowing that I was different from a very early age, and then facing tragedy in my later life, things just started to spiral out of control, and I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And it was either just kill myself or do what I had to do. And I thought that the best option, since I had my son and family relying on me, was to just do it. Go for what I had to do. I had to take a risk. I had no choice. It was either transition or die. So, obviously, there were consequences. Eventually, I lost my job. I fell out of favor with a lot of people. I lost friends. I lost contact with my sisters. Um, and that's not my choice. That's their choice. But ultimately, I had to make a choice for myself. And I wanted to do the right thing because I have a son who's autistic and he looks up to me as his father. So I still had to balance being a father, but trying to address my own personal needs as a transgender woman. And I knew that whatever I chose, it was going to be, there were going to be conflicts. But I'm fortunate enough to have a son who's very understanding and very accepting. And I am fortunate to have wonderful doctors. And my wife, though she does not accept my transition, is getting accustomed to it. I am not the type to walk away from a relationship. I love my wife and I always have, and I love my son and I always will. I just want to be happy. We only live one life, and there's no point in being miserable. So I've come to realize that for me, transition was very important. And that's basically what I see when I watch these other transgender girls on YouTube, is how much they are much happier with themselves as they decide to transition. And they show their enthusiasm as they're transitioning. And it's not any different from how I feel. And I'm very happy as I've have come to see myself and in the different stages of my own transition. And is it an easy process? Of course not. Is it worthwhile? Yes, it is. I wouldn't change it. I'm very happy that I am transitioning because my life is evolving and I'm feeling much happier as a person, as a human being. And I feel much more comfortable with myself. I feel happier. And I love being treated like a woman and being accepted as a woman because that's how I've always felt. I always felt like a woman. I always was feminine, and I always knew that, and I couldn't change that, no matter how hard I tried. Sure, I tried to bury my femininity in acts of bravado and trying to be as masculine as I could, but it was all failures because I wasn't being truthful and I was not happy. I was miserable. And the only way I could find my true inner happiness was to come to realize that I had no other choice but to transition. And I am very happy. Sure, I miss working, but I found something that is more important to me. Obviously, I'm an advocate for my son, and I am also a recording artist. And I started my own label as an artist. I am my own client, and I work under the label of T Girl Angel Recording Artists, and I've already have created 3 different albums and some singles, and I'm working with TuneCore and having them distribute my albums on iTunes, Google Play, and many other digital music sites. And I'm very happy and excited about it. I am not a musician, I am a spoken word artist, but I do feel that as a spoken word artist, I have a lot to talk about. I have a lot to say, and I have a lot to share with people. And what I do is I put all my emotion into my recordings. There's not one recording that doesn't reflect my emotion. Granted, a lot of my recordings may sound bass level because I don't have that range with a singer's voice. So at times it may sound monotone, but in essence, it's capturing me, my true essence of a person. And though it may sound monotone, I am reading it from my own personal perspective. And I do cry in some of my recordings, as I do get very emotional. Um, there's one song in particular, or one recording, I should say, called Death, where I am actually crying. And then there's another recording I called Suicide, where I am actually talking about my own dealings with that concept of contemplating suicide. Um, I'm long past those thoughts, and you know, it's very difficult to confront those feelings. But as an artist, I think it's very important that these issues be addressed. I also have transgender related issues, autism related issues, suicide prevention, suicide awareness. I have storytelling, poetry, songwriting. I do lots of things. I have a very creative imagination and I love to share. I even have horror and I also do electronica recordings because I love electronic music. But a lot of my work is spoken word, and I'm proud to say I'm an artist. I have 3 albums. One is already on iTunes called Ideas, and the other 2 I have one is called Avant Garde, which is 25 tracks, similar to Ideas, which is 25 tracks. And my other one is Random Thoughts, which is actually my ambitious project, which has 101 tracks and is over 7 hours in length. I hope that you check them out. I love you guys. Emily of T-Girl Angel.